Höfer. Dirk Höfer, professor at University of Education, Freiburg, Germany, will present the plenary paper.
So, good morning, everyone. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
That's fine. Thank you, Slatina, for having me. I like to share my screen.
Of course.
Hold on a second. Let's go for the technical details. So, can you see my full screen? I hope so.
Just a moment.
Now I shared my screen for you.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's fine. Once again, thanks for having me. Let me shortly explain my background. I was not educated in textiles. I was educated in theoretical medicine here in Germany, where I also did my PhD, and then I also did a graduation for postdoctoral lecture qualification in medicine, in anatomy and cell biology. But then from 2001 to 2020, I went to the textile industry, not directly to the industry, but to a textile research and testing company named Hohenstein, where I was CEO and medical director till 2020. However, since 2008, I'm also adjunct professor at the University of Education in Freiburg. And now I'm joining since 2020 the project that Slatina Kaslacheva already explained a little bit. So I'm now a scientific researcher here at the University of Education in Freiburg. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'd like to dive in directly in my presentation. Let's get started with the title on the importance of fashion design within a sustainable fashion curriculum at textile universities in Europe. I will show you preliminary results of the European research project Fashion Diet. Well, we all know that the reason for this conference is one reason for this conference is also that in the textile and clothing industry, there's a radical transformation going on. A transformation towards sustainable economic practices, and therefore it is necessary to improve the serious environmental and social impacts which occur along the entire textile chain. We also know that the European community has made a change because the European Commission changed its direction towards a Green Deal, and there's also a European action plan behind it. That means that that there's a concept of a circular economy. This becomes increasingly more important in the next years. We also know that, especially in the recent years, many companies have hardly taken any measures to improve their social and their environmental impacts. And this is according to a study of the World Wild Fund. However, the European Action Plan also involves the European consumer into sustainable circularity, and I will show you that with the next slide here. What you can see is data taken from Eurostat. In Germany, it's Statista. It shows you the month-on-month percentage change in the volume of textile clothing and footwear retail trade in the European Union from December 2019 to March 2021. So looking at the textile and clothing consumption based on the European retail figures, we see a significant drop here. I hope you can see my mouse here, a significant drop in sales in 2020, of course, due to the corona pandemic, which almost then went back to pre-corona levels 1 year later. And we also know for the years to come, experts predict a further increase in the demand for clothing based on the growing world population. Now, against the background, the European textile and fashion sector is required to offer sustainable textiles and fashion with more resource efficient life cycles in the sense of a circular management or a circular business. This requires the introduction of new production processes, the establishment of innovative circular business models, and the development of durable garments made of recyclable materials and garments which are based on a sustainable circular design. Now, this data also shows that the transformation of the textile and fashion industry, which I mentioned, towards a sustainable circular economy, places responsibility not only on the industry, but on all actors. That includes also the consumer. And such a paradigm shift therefore requires extensive new knowledge on the part of both the industry and trade, as well as on the part of the consumer. So it needs new knowledge for both of them, the industry and the consumer. And the keyword new knowledge already signals that there's a requirement for a continuous implementation of a guiding principle, education for sustainable development, from now on abbreviated ESD, education for sustainable development, in education and in training. So not only due to a strong demand for sustainable products and processes in the textile and fashion industry and its global market, but also we know that the United Nations has installed sustainable developmental goals, SDG goals, which created a strong momentum for promoting ESD to empower people to change the way they think and work towards a sustainable future. So what we see here is once again the concept of the triple bottom line concept, and we see all of the complex ESD topics which are here in the center, so cross-cutting issues between ecology, economy, and society. So once again, ESD is also a topic of the consumer and not only of people working in the textile value chain. But ESD is not only about knowledge acquisition, but also it's about willingness to engage, willingness to manage risk and uncertainty. It's about empathy for other people's circumstances, and so on and so forth. So, the problem, I think, according to these requirements, is that only the informed educators and students can make well-founded decisions today and in the future. So ESD, in the context of fashion and textiles, belongs, from our perspective, as a guiding principle into the curricula of universities and further education institutions. So it needs ESD, sorry, we go back here. It needs ESD to address the topics of the triple bottom line concept, to explain it to the people, for example. So the knowledge gap, but also holds also true in particular with regard to fashion design. And I would like to explain this a little bit. Sustainable garments have to be designed in the future that they can be, let's say, disassembled, that they use available resources, that they are based on the conception of product as a service, using available resources, and as many of today's textile and fashion products are intended with neither durability nor recyclability in mind, there's still also a knowledge gap regarding design and sustainable production of textiles. We also know that about 80% of the product's environmental impacts are determined at the design phase. So sustainability-oriented brands face a situation today to train their design and product development teams to create durable products and favoring disassembly of fibers, as I explained, and realizing recyclable garments. But this does not take the consumer into account. And therefore, I would like to shortly explain a little bit about some surveys that were recently done with consumers. On the one hand, consumers make a strong demand for the industry to produce eco-friendly clothing. On the other hand, the consumers want these eco-friendly clothes with a fashionable and durable design, and of course, at a cheap price. So the problem can only be solved when the industry responds to the consumer's demand also for affordable, sustainable, and well-designed clothing. And therefore, we have to conclude university lecturers as well as trainers in companies and teachers at all levels of education are not yet sufficiently sensitized and didactically and methodically trained to teach ESD and thus to act as multipliers for the younger generation students and pupils. This brings me to our project. What is the research question of our project? Of course, the title is Sustainable Fashion Curriculum at Textile University in Europe, and the subtitle is Development, Implementation and Evaluation of a Teaching Module for Educators. And there is the abbreviation with the bold characters: Development, Implementation, Evaluation of a Teaching Module, abbreviated DAAD. I think since September 2020, this Erasmus project is working. It has two major aims. The first aim is to implement ESD as a guiding principle in textile education, starting from higher education to secondary level. And there's also the aim to implement a sustainable fashion curriculum at textile universities in Europe, taking into account the pivotal role of the design phase in the development of sustainable fashion. So the project strives to continuously implement ESD over the next years in organizations of education and also in the textile and fashion industry as a guiding principle. To reach this goal, the comprehensive didactic content and methodology of the project is jointly elaborated, as Slatina Kasaljeva already explained, between 4 institutions of higher education: the University of Education in Freiburg as the coordinator doing the lead management, then Reutlingen University, both situated in Germany. Then we have the George Asahi Technical University in Iași, Romania, and of course, last but not least, Rakia University of Stara Zagora in Bulgaria. What are the objectives of our project? As already explained, the project's main goal is to develop an ESD further education module here in the context of fashion and textiles for universities. The second goal is then teaching and learning material derived from the ESD module, which still needs to be developed. And last but not least, we look out for an information and e-learning portal, because all of the learning arrangements are made available as open educational resource via a database, which I'm going to explain to you. Now let's have a look at the design of the Fashion DAAD project. First, we ran a qualitative and quantitative online questionnaire using Google Forms, which was intended to identify the attitudes and the needs for contents and methods of university lectures. The data was then processed by chi-square analysis method using the software Statistica 12. And in the following step, the data was then used to develop a new curriculum for a sustainable textile chain and fashion market at textile universities in Europe. That is, of course, the ESD module, which comprises up to now 42 lectures. Then in summer 2021, we ran a learning, teaching and training event, abbreviated LTT, learning, teaching and training activity. This was done with lecturers at the George Asahi Technical University in Iași, Romania. And it was run over a period of 3 days to inform about the developmental status of the ESD module and also to test the adoption and the use of the e-learning platform at local campus that you see here. Well, of course, we also developed a major project website, which I'm going to show you later on, which informs, which is on one hand, it is the access point for the information and e-learning platform local campus, and on the other hand, it also informs on a continuous basis in accordance with our project objectives. So let's get started with the data that we retrieved so far. So what you see here is a short overview about some of the questions that we addressed within our quantitative online questionnaire. This was piloted in 3 countries, in the 3 partner countries, Bulgaria, Germany, and Romania. And the rollout received a sample size of more than 120, exactly 122 respondents, mainly women. And most of the participants responded as lecturers and some also as PhD students and researchers. So the question were addressing aspects such as perceived usefulness and experience and opinions on ESD, as you can see here in the overview. When participants were asked for critical suggestions to develop an ESD module with sustainability aspects, a strong demand for, of course, practical relevance was observed regarding the teaching and learning methods, as well as a need for sustainability information and data access. So let's go for the first result from the online questionnaire, and let's have a deeper look on some of the most meaningful answers of the respondents. As expected, over 70% of respondents allocated the impact on the environment and the reduction of industrial waste as important in the application of sustainability aspects in textile production. This is answer number 1 here from all of the countries. This was expected, I think. However, there were also some country-specific preferences to the open-ended questions. Germany and Romania identified the formation of critical thinking. This is answer number 7 here. As important reason, whereas the educators in Bulgaria, this is a blue bar here, are mainly focused on the preservation of textile heritage. The survey also revealed that especially in Bulgaria, let me have a short look here. Yeah, here, again, the blue bar. That especially in Bulgaria, a sustainable fashion and design education is already focused, and whereas Romanian lecturers are mainly experienced in teaching aspects of sustainability related to textile and clothing technology. That's this green bar over here. German lecturers tend to weight sustainability aspects more equally in design and technology. Thus, it can be concluded that the development of a sustainable product strongly has to take into account the design phase as well as textile, clothing, and technology. The next question was about ask for the information that lecturers need to implement ESD into the respective curricula. And very obvious, we have here a strong answer from Bulgaria once again to implement new sustainable methods. So concerning this question, there was no statistical significance between the answers of the respondents from Bulgaria and from Germany here in red and green bars. So taking into account the Bulgarian focus on fashion design that we see here, new methods for implementing ESD in the education of design and pattern making need to be elaborated. Well, the next question was, if you already implement sustainability aspects in your lectures, what is your primary target? And we saw some, as you can see in this graph here, dissenting opinions of the 3 countries that were observed when asking lecturers on this question. In Germany, emphasis is mainly put on, once again, critical thinking. This is the red bar here. And Romanian lecturers address aspects of textile technology education and upcycling, recycling concepts. This is the green bar over here, and the green bar here answering to the question with the observation number 2. In Bulgaria, Bulgarian lecturers foster sustainability in education of designing and patterning. Once again, these are the blue bars here. Yeah. So from these data, we then constructed an ESD module, the structure that you can see here. So based on the survey of over 120 university lecturers in all of the 3 countries, the project team then developed this 3-part further education module. This includes, on the one hand, didactic methodical concepts, then sustainable fashion design and corresponding production technologies, and last but not least, sustainable orientation of the fashion market and entrepreneurship. So the ESD module provides the respective courses that follow an internationally accepted structure for course development. I will show this in a couple of minutes, as well as respective interactive and physical teaching material, including manuals, podcasts, and supportive literature. Before showing this data, I will briefly give you the information about the Learning, Teaching, and Training event. Well, this was run at the beginning of June 2021, and here the ESD module was tested and evaluated for its further training status by over 70 participants, mainly representatives of German research institutes and universities, then representatives of Bulgarian and Romanian textile and fashion companies, and of course, the consortium members of the project. So the main focus was to evaluate the ESD module, to exchange views, to take up comments and amendments, and so on. Well, according to a deeper analysis based on the video recording of the LTT, which revealed several responses of fashion designers, it became evident that they are aware of the complex shape of sustainability issues. They understand that there's a new role for designers ahead of them against the background that about 80% of environmental impact and costs are due to the outcome of the decision made in the design phase of a garment. So designers need knowledge, they are aware of this, they need skills on sustainability and how to choose from sustainable materials to increase garment longevity and how to bind the consumers emotionally for their respective brands. So I think this is not new, but this is in line with former studies which already addressed the perspectives and attitudes of consumers towards sustainable design. For example, Prey criticized that key barriers to the mainstreaming of sustainable clothing are the stigma and the stereotypes associated with the design of sustainable clothes. Then Papaiokonomou observed that consumers do not want to compromise on other criteria such as functionality or style and design. And the latest survey done by Jacob's group, the participants expected sustainable clothing to have undurable attributes. So obviously, in today's consumer purchase, preference, style and design still outweigh sustainability, beside, of course, the price, which has to be cheap. Yeah. So if sustainable fashion shall be successfully placed on the market, it needs an up-to-date design and has to be offered at a reasonable price. Of course, these aspects are also relevant for the elaboration of the ESD module. And against the background of these facts and findings, the ESD module will not only focus on the sustainable development of the textile value chain and textile fashion design, but will also address the role of the consumer. Let's have a look at the course structure. The ESD module provides the respective courses that follow an internationally accepted structure for course development, taking care of different course types like classic lectures, seminars, or interactive courses. The content will be given as open educational resource, PowerPoint presentations outlining the specific learning objectives, and at the end there will also be a question bank to check back on the learning progress. Further information will be given on the orientation of the course, like the type of course, the course level, the target groups, of course, the skills of the target groups, including the workload that is needed to finish the course. At this point, I would like to comment that we are not targeting at ready-made lectures that you may pick, but to offer the latest information about sustainability, and that you may pick from our lectures whatever you like and adapt it according to your needs so that you can implement it into your respective curricula. Then I would like to inform you about the open e-learning platform Global Campus. Of course, it is common sense that in the future, teachers and learners must increasingly cooperate internationally, as we do presently here in this conference, so that the guiding principle of ESD can be permanently established on an international level. To enable this cross-university exchange of digital teaching and learning arrangements, our project will make available all of the learning arrangements as open educational resource material in virtual learning spaces that can be found within this open e-learning platform, Global Campus. Now, Global Campus is a Moodle-based online platform, and it has transformed in the last 2 years into an international university network that enables virtual collaboration in a wide range of subjects, not only textiles and fashion, but also architecture, medicine, education, up to intercultural studies. So the 3 partner universities in Bulgaria, Germany, and Romania are official members now of Global Campus, and so we hope to network here more strongly and internationally in the future to have a cross-university teaching training with digital teaching and research. And last but not least, here's a screenshot of our actual major project website of the Fashion Diet project. Of course, with the start of the project, we installed this major website that you find at the link https://fashiondiet.eu. It continuously reports on the project progress and is also and will be the key access point to the information and e-learning platform Global Campus. So from here you can jump then to Global Campus and log in to Global Campus. So this brings me to our conclusions. The Fashion Diet project elaborates an action and research-oriented further education module, as we are targeting to implement ESD as a guiding principle in textile education. We ran a questionnaire at the beginning of the project that revealed that the ESD module is regarded as highly useful for this goal. And we picked up all of the comments of the respondents to structure an ESD module. The Fashion Diet project explores the importance of fashion design in enhancing teaching and learning about ESD by educating the educators, and therefore on a higher level, the Fashion Diet project strengthens the quality and relevance of the learning offering education towards the latest developments in textile research and innovation in terms of a more sustainable fashion. So that's it from my side. I really thank you for your kind attention. I hope that everything went well with the technical for the technical part, and I would also like to thank all of the partners which contributed to the data that I was allowed to present today, the colleagues from Bulgaria, the colleagues from Romania, from Reutlingen, and of course my colleagues from Freiburg University. If you're interested in the citations that I made during the presentation and the keynote speech, this is given here, and this is it from my side. So thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Höfer.